why I decided to keep my family's language going and passing it down to the next generation. Going back to the basics, we know that language is more than just words and their meanings. It's how these words work in relation to each other, and the meanings they produce can even be different, even if they're the same words, from culture to culture. And that's how language becomes more than just a means of communication. It becomes a pathway into that culture and into those people's minds and souls. Here are a few reasons for which I have decided to pass down my family's language to my children. First of all, I believe it's doable, especially for people like myself who are not living in the country that speaks the family's language. I am originally from Iran. That's where my ancestors are from. Even though I'm second generation born outside of Iran, and I've actually never been to Iran, but my family, my parents and grandparents succeeded in transferring the language to me. And through the language, I have been introduced to this amazing culture and heritage, and I'm proud of it. So I thought if my family could do that, then why can't I do it now with my own children? So even though my Persian speaking is not at the same level as someone who was born and raised in Iran and graduated high school from Iran, but I have enough Persian to be able to communicate, to be able to read books and understand that culture. I also see myself and many others like myself as proofs that it is possible to pass down the family's language to a generation who does not live in the country that speaks that language. That's why I was up for the challenge and I decided to do the same thing with my children. If you have watched this video, you might say that you have said in this video that you do not speak Persian to your children. That is true. I have started speaking Arabic with my children from the moment they were born, because that's another important language that I wanted to pass down to them. Even though I am not an Arab by blood, but I consider myself part of that Arab culture as well. So I wanted my children to be exposed to both of them. Persian remains the language of the family. That's a language my husband and I communicate in. The foundation is Persian. And with the extended family as well, it's the dominant language, I would say. Another reason for which I have decided to pass down my family's language to my children was observing many cases of children who are not able to speak the family's language, and as a result, not being able to communicate with their own grandparents. So to me, that is a very sad disconnection between two generations from the same lineage just because they don't speak the same language. It is very heartbreaking. There has been some cases in which I personally have seen a grandparent and a grandchild sitting side by side or in the same room. The grandparent is visiting from their country, the grandchild who is now, let's say, in a European or a North American country, and they cannot talk to each other. And that is heartbreaking and heart-wrenching to me. So I thought that it's worth giving it a try and passing the language down to my children, just as my parents have done it to me, and keeping that connection going. And I'm very thankful that I have done that, because my children have access to all their living grandparents and they are able to learn from them and form beautiful memories with them. Another reason for which I have decided to pass down my family's language to my children was observing some adults who expressed how upset they were that they could not speak their family's language. Actually, one of them was crying from the heart because they could not speak their family's language. Or observing some adults in extended family reunions who are part of the culture and the heritage, but just because they don't speak the language, they are either feeling left out or they're not following what's happening, or they cannot catch the jokes that are being said, or the nice compliments, or anything else from the conversations. It's also worth mentioning that every family situation is different. I know many families have adapted and they speak the language of the majority or the language of the country that they're living in. Many grandparents have learned the language that their grandchildren speak. So what I'm sharing with you is what I have seen around me and what is applicable to my family situation. Now, the question is, how can we pass down the family's language to the next generation? And how can we, as adults, if we haven't learned our family's language as children, how can we learn it now? So first, let's think of an adult who would like to learn their family's language. That adult needs to be willing to learn the language. That's number one. You need to have the desire, you need to have the will to learn your family's language. There needs to be that burning desire from the inside that I have to do this. I have to learn my family's language. The second point is knowing that it is possible and that it is doable. Putting that mentality aside that I haven't learned as a child, now I cannot learn it anymore. No, you are able to learn it. I know a few people who have learned a second or third language when they were 65 plus. It is doable. Also remember, in many cases, you must have been exposed to some of this language throughout your life. Your subconscious mind have heard this language. Yes, it will be still challenging for you to learn it and form sentences, but it will not be as difficult as someone who has never heard this language before. Just having that language in your family, it is still an advantage. Next is taking on the challenge and taking practical steps. You need to find out the best method in which you can learn your family's language. Do some research here. If you'd like to learn it on YouTube, you can have a private tutor. You can ask someone in the family to help you. You can buy books. Every person's learning style is different, and there are amazing stories that I've found on YouTube of people who have learned their families' languages as adults, how that has made their families very happy about it, and how they were able to do it. Yes, it will take them some time to reach to the level of a native speaker, but they have taken the first steps and they succeeded. I will add a few links in the description section below of some of those videos that I have really enjoyed watching. So moving on to a child. If you are a parent or a caregiver and you do not live in the country that speaks your family's language, but you'd still like to pass down that family's language to your children, these are the steps that I suggest you take to do so. Start young. The younger you start, the quicker and easier the child will learn. Some studies have shown that children under the age of 7 are able to speak a language just like a native speaker. My children have started learning French at the age of 4 by entering school, and even though I speak some French, every sentence I say, my children correct me. Mom, this is not how you say it. This is how you should be saying it. Because they have learned it young, they were not infants or toddlers. They were at school age. But they were still young enough to learn the language as a native speaker. That's why they can pick my mistakes when I speak French, mistakes that I don't even hear. For example, one of the words that one of my children picked up on me was the word, I still don't know the difference. I wanted to say the beginning of something in French, and I said debout, I think. And the word is debout. You correct me. They were two words. To me, they were exactly the same, but apparently they sound very different. And they are to start and to stand up in French. I think debout and debout. And I was saying one instead of the other, and my daughter was not understanding what I was saying. And then when she figured it out, she was like, Mom, that's how you say it. And I was like, that's exactly what I said. But it's not as easy as an adult. So the point is, start young. The younger, the better. Children learn best by being immersed in that environment. So if you are a parent who speaks that language, speak it to them. As simple as that. Just keep speaking it to them. Ask them to repeat after you. Put songs for them in that language, TV shows in that language, cartoons in that language. And the more, the better. When my children entered school, for the first school year, they could not produce much French. They understood it by the end of the first year. It was in the second year that they have been able to produce the language. And now my eldest, who's in grade 2, is able to read and write in French. So give them time. Don't say, I've been doing this for a month or two and my child is still not speaking. Give them time. Give them a year or two. It is very tiring for us parents to keep trying and for them to respond back in a language other than that language. But I personally feel that it is worth trying. Because when I see my children in family gatherings, family reunions with extended family, able to communicate with the elder generation, able to play in the family's language with other children around their age, yes, they would still mix the majority's language, which is English, but they are able to understand other adults who do not speak English properly, or understanding conversations happening in that environment. Also, if you see that you do not have the time to teach them your family's language or the patience for whatever reason, consider hiring a tutor. Would doing it once a week help? I don't know. I haven't tried it that way. I tried learning French like that. It didn't work for me. I have learned some vocabulary, but putting sentences together, I wasn't able to do so. So if there is a tutor, there needs to be some kind of intensivity in it. More than once a week, the more the better. And there needs to be consistency even after the lessons are done, because it's very easy to lose a language when you stop using it, right? Also, most of the methods that we use for a child, which is immersion, listening to songs, watching TV shows or cartoons, repeating after someone, asking for repetition, all these things that can happen in the child's world when they are learning a new language, we can also apply to ourselves as adults. The difference is when you're a child, it's imposed on you. If your family thinks this is important to be done, when you're an adult, you need to impose it on yourself, and you need to have that determination to follow up with what you have decided to do. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think it's worth investing your time and energy in learning your family's language? Or do you think that your family has already learned and adapted to the language of the majority, and they don't need to speak the language of their home country to be able to communicate? Is there any importance to that in your opinion? I am curious to hear your opinion in the comment section below, and if you have a first-hand experience with that, please also share it in the comment section below. One of the things that I am observing now is the amount of people that are willing to learn different languages so that they are able to communicate with more people around the world. And they put the time and effort to travel and be in that country and meet those people and practice their language. That's why I think if someone has a language in their family that they can learn and be exposed to hundreds of thousands or millions of people with that language, then why not? It's an enrichment. I know that opinions will vary about this, and what I am sharing with you is my personal opinion, my personal experience. Feel free to share with me your different opinion if you have a different one. What I am saying is in no way the only way or the right way. It is what worked for me and my family, And if this is not the thing that you would like to pursue, I am curious to find out why. So please share that in the comment section below. If this is the kind of content you would like to see, please hit the subscribe button, like, share, hit the notification bell, and see you next week.